Ever wanted to create cool 2D terrains in Unity without the hassle of creating a ton of sprites and taking hours to implement them into your game just for you to change your mind and then having to start all over again? Well, thank God you found this video, bro, damn. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to implement sprite shapes to your game projects to create easily edited and flexible terrain, and not just that, you can create any custom shape you want in Engine without having to open another editor. Now, don't forget to subscribe before we start and click on the like button if you do enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's get started with the video. Now, sprite shapes are really easy actually. So to use sprite shapes, you should have a basic tile set. Now I'll be using this tile set, but you can use really any tile set. So to add a sprite shape, it's really easy. You go to Assets, right click, go to Create, go to 2D, and click on Sprite Shape Profile. Now you have a sprite shape profile. I'm gonna name this Ground. Awesome. Now I'm gonna double click on the ground. Now we have two types of sprite shapes. We have either the open sprite shape or the closed sprite shape. First we'll be creating the open sprite shape and then the closed sprite shape. Alright, so the open sprite shape is actually really easy. You can just add the sprite you want right here. So in my case, I'm gonna be adding this little sprite right here. And now I just drag and drop it right here. But the thing is, it's actually really small. So I'm gonna make it a bit bigger. Make this 16 pixels per unit. And set the filter mode to point no filter and the compression type to none. Awesome. Now I'm gonna click on apply, and awesome, perfect. Now to edit the sprite shape, we're gonna click on edit spline. So I just created this spline right here, and you can edit it in many ways. You can create this little type right here. If you've ever used Photoshop, this looks a bit like the Bezier tool in Photoshop. If you know how to use the Bezier tool, it's really easy actually. Awesome, so we have this, we can make it instant or linear, we can make it continuous, and we can make it broken. So we can do stuff like this. We can make a ton of weird shapes. Now in this tutorial we'll be making a ground example, but you can actually use a lot of different, you have a lot of different uses for sprite shapes. So they're not just for terrain. You can make them for terrain, or for example right here, I have my character. So we have the left eye here and the right eye here, and we have the mouth. These two are just normal squares, but the mouth is actually a sprite shape. I added in a sprite shape and quickly edited it to be a mouth. If we go and add the ground, you see right here, the thing is, if I make it a bit wider, maybe I make it just a bit wider, the thing is, it actually isn't really linear, or it's not really a nice effect. So what I'm gonna do is actually a really easy fix. I'm gonna go to the platform. I'm gonna go to sprite editor. If you don't know how to, if it's not showing here, you can go to window, go to 2D, and click on sprite editor, but I already have it right here. So now I'm just gonna make it a bit less wide from the edges. So maybe make this at 5, and make this from the other side at something like 5. Perfect. Now let's click on apply, create a new ground, make it wider. It updates, but it's not mashy. It's not like this. I can create a ton of stuff with this. You can be very creative with this tool. This was the open sprite shape. So I edited the ground a bit, and I'm gonna add a collider to it. So I'm gonna add an edge collider, which is actually used for the sprite shapes. So by adding the edge collider, you have automatically added this edge. Awesome. You can deselect this, you can move it around, you can scale it up, and awesome, it works perfectly. Down we go. Now let's create a closed sprite shape. Alright, so if you want to make it for the closed sprite shape, I'm just gonna click on duplicate, and I'm gonna create a new profile. You can keep the old profile, or if you don't want two profiles, you can edit it. I'm just gonna create another profile. Let's create a 45 to minus 45. So this is a 90-degree angle. Let's create a sprite. So let's add in a sprite. So I have these sprites right here. I'm just gonna select my profile. I'm gonna lock it right here with this lock option so it doesn't go away. And I'm gonna go to the folders, and I'm gonna add in a sprite. Now I'm gonna add this sprite right here. So I'm gonna put it in right here. Awesome. So now what this will do is whenever we have the closed sprite shape, whenever it's in the upper direction, it's gonna draw in this sprite. Whenever it's in the right direction, it's gonna draw a wall. Whenever it's in the bottom direction, it'll draw the bottom sprite. And if it's on the left, it'll draw a left wall sprite. So if you don't understand what I mean, we're gonna see it in a bit. Now let's create a new range. Let's create range. And we're gonna make it from minus 45 to minus 135. We're gonna add this tile right here. And just for clarification, when you add a sprite, it should be like this. So the wall tile is actually it's actually not in the correct position. Because why? Because it actually converts it to the correct position. So when you add a wall sprite, don't add it the same as when you add it to a tile set. So just always remember, when adding the upper, lower, and the walls sprites, always rotate them to face upwards. But keep the corner sprites' rotation normally. Awesome, so I'm gonna add a new one. It's gonna be from range, it starts from 225 to 135. I'm gonna add the last range. So in this range, I'm gonna add a sprite, this sprite right here. And as you can see, this sprite right here is actually facing upwards because it automatically converts it downwards. Alright, awesome. And the last one, I'm gonna add this one right here. Awesome, perfect. So now if we add it, go to assets, and let's add in a ground closed right here. Alright, so it has a couple of problems, one of them being the center part right here is actually white, and the edges, we don't have any edges. So how are we gonna fix this? I'm gonna go to it right here, and I'm gonna go to fill. I'm gonna add in the fill. Awesome. I'm gonna go to the fill. Alright, so as we can see, the thing is, it's not really the same as how we want it. So let's go to it, deselect this, go to it, and let's select the wrap mode to repeat, and I'm gonna select the compression to none. Awesome. And the pixels per unit, if we put it as 16, it's not gonna do anything right here. You know what, let's go to the game object, not the profile, the game object, and let's go to the fill section and select the pixel per unit as 16, or the same pixel per unit you actually added to your game. Alright, so what's left is actually the corners. How we're gonna do this is we're gonna go back, we're gonna go to the corners. I actually set mine before, so the pixels per unit are 16. The wrap mode is, I'm gonna keep it clamp, and I selected the compression to none. Awesome. So I'm gonna go back, and I'm gonna keep the selection on the, I'm gonna go to the folder, and the outer top left, I'm gonna add my sprites, the outer top left, the outer top right, the bottom top left, the outer bottom left. Awesome. And the last one here. Perfect. Now we have it complete. Awesome. And now what's left is just the collider. So we're gonna deselect this lock option, and let's add a collider. But we're not gonna add any collider, we're gonna add the edge collider. You should select on update collider if it did not update, and let's make the offset. I guess this looks pretty good, something like this. Yeah, this looks pretty good. Awesome. Now let's edit it a bit. Alright, so I edited it a bit. You can actually select it as a game object, and if you want, maybe scale it up if you would like. You can even scale it down. You can actually use it as you use any simple game object, really. Alright, awesome. Now I have my little character right here, and I'm gonna click on play and see how he behaves with this terrain. Alright, perfect. Now all of the colliders work. He went a bit berserk there. All of the colliders work, and they work pretty good. Awesome. Oh, and just to clarify, if you want to learn how to make a simple 2D player controller, you can go check out my video. It's available in the top right corner. Check out this video if you're interested in how I made a dumb, milk, zero gravity game in a week. Subscribe here for more tutorials and devlogs, or click here to watch this video. See you guys in the next video.